Welcome back to the Weekly Friedman, your source for the most essential information in the default industry. Today, we'll be discussing a hot-button New York title topic surrounding CEMAs and erroneous satisfactions. I'm Adam Friedman, managing partner at Friedman Vartolo, and joining me today is Friedman Vartolo Senior Associate Anthony Ortiz. Anthony, how's it going today?
Great, Adam. Thank you for having me.
So Anthony leads our New York title litigation group and has extensive experience dealing with a wide range of heavily contested title litigation matters across the state. Most pertinently for today's discussion, Anthony has litigated numerous matters where a SAT has been erroneously discharged. So the erroneous satisfaction CEMA issue is not a small one, and we've received numerous requests to cover it. Today will be the first Weekly Friedman to cover this topic, and it'll serve as the first part of a 4-part series with about 1 episode per month. So Anthony, set the stage for us. What is a CEMA and why is it so common in New York?
So Adam, a CEMA, or a Consolidation, Extension, and Modification Agreement, is a loan option specific to New York, and it serves to reduce the cost to refinance one mortgage. So a CEMA will allow a borrower to pay the mortgage tax on the difference between the current principal balance and the new loan amount.
All right, so we're saying if we have a mortgage for $4, let's just say, it's a very cheap mortgage in New York, and we need $1 to redo our garage. So we're going to get it kind of like a new mortgage almost for $5, but we're only paying tax on the $1 extra for the garage. Is that the basic gist?
Depending how much you paid down on that first mortgage, yes.
Okay, so how does a tax-saving instrument lead to an erroneous satisfaction? They don't really seem related.
Right. So because you have lenders operating in different states, those servicers who are servicing those mortgages, all they see is the CEMA. They're seeing it as a single mortgage, and they're not seeing the individual obligations that make up that CEMA. So when a new mortgage is issued, traditionally, a servicer will try to satisfy mortgages that have been paid to. So what they'll do is they'll see the CEMA, and they'll say, we don't need to have those prior instruments, so they'll SAT the prior mortgage.
Okay, so in essence, the CEMA is a consolidation of 2 prior mortgages now, right? The second one's being created for the tax-saving purposes, but basically the CEMA is a consolidation of 2 prior mortgages, and a servicer or whatever entity is not overly comfortable in New York might actually satisfy that first mortgage, thinking they have a CEMA.
In error, yes, because what they'll think is that CEMA represents the entire obligation. When if you read the terms of that CEMA, it's actually laying out both mortgages.
All right. So in essence, if you have a CEMA, you don't want to consolidate. You don't want to satisfy either of the 2 mortgages that are being consolidated.
Definitely not, because it serves to cut out the foundation.
Okay. So I'm a lender. Let's just imagine I'm a lender for a second, and I have a CEMA. And I find out that one of those prior mortgages that were consolidated in the CEMA was satisfied in error, either by myself, prior party, whoever, right? What do I do?
So you have 2 paths, and it depends on whether or not you have the cooperation of the borrower. So with a borrower, you may execute what's called a jointly executed and recorded rescission of erroneous satisfaction. More often than not, it's quite difficult to get because for one reason or another, the borrower may not be responsive, the lender may not be active in terms of trying to cure the issue, and it's hard to get all the parties together sometimes to execute that single document. And without the cooperation, you can commence what's called a quiet title action or an Article 15 action.
So with cooperation, it sounds like it's easy, right? Easy enough. We're getting a document signed. Without cooperation, we're commencing an entirely new case, right? Is that what you said? So who's named in this case? Who's being named in the Article 15?
So it's really anybody or any party with an interest in and to the property. So you have any subordinate lien holders to the main mortgage holder. You also have, so that could be anybody from a judgment creditor to another subordinate mortgagee. You also have to name any record owners to the property, so any necessary parties that you would otherwise probably name in a foreclosure action. Anybody who has an interest in and to the property and could be affected by your action by your action.
Gosh, how does this normally play out? Like, is this a timing thing where it's annoying, but you'll get it done, or is the lien really at risk?
It depends. So because these SATs are often executed at or around the time of that second mortgage and then the consolidation, they are typically rather easy to identify. More often than not, the SAT sometimes is filed in advance of the recording of the CEMA. Now, what will happen is the county clerk will then refuse to record that gap mortgage in that CEMA because they'll see the underlying obligation has been satisfied. So there is nothing to consolidate. So that is more often than not when you have issues, which is good in that these things come up rather quickly. In the worst case scenario, a borrower can take out another mortgage and a subordinate liener may detrimentally rely on that SAT, and things could get ugly from there.
When you see that, is there malintent there? Like, does the borrower realize, hey, one of my mortgages got satisfied, I'll go get some more money, or is it just luck?
I'd rather not cast aspersions, but it could be both.
Okay. All right. So what's the goal of the case? I know it's obvious you want to fix the problem, right? But are we vacating the SAT, or what are we doing? What's the goal?
So what will happen is, the great question. What happens is the SAT is actually not formally vacated. What happens is you get a court order, and then in that court order, you compel the county court to record the order, but also expunge the erroneous or vacate the erroneous SAT. That order is then recorded against land records, and that is the operative instrument which cures the defect. The SAT itself is never actually formally removed from land records. It's just that a later recorded order cures the earlier issue.
Do you run into issues? So the order that's going to get recorded, I imagine it's a certified copy of the order?
Certified by the county clerk, yep.
Are there any counties where that's a problem to get, or does that? I'm just thinking more of a bank or a lender that's going through this process, gets to the end, and now you're telling them, wait, you have a certified order. Do those come quickly in most counties?
They can come quickly in most counties. Depending on your vendor, you should be able to get them within a week or 2 weeks. Very often, clerks give certified orders and disperse them to lenders and attorneys, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. All right. So to recap, when a CEMA is recorded, it does not replace the prior mortgage. Rather, it consolidates that prior mortgage with another mortgage. Satisfying the prior mortgage is bad, right? You're leaving both mortgages on record, even though you have a CEMA. Second, all prior lien holders are going to be named in a title action. So if you have a problem or one of those two prior mortgages are satisfied erroneously, an action will be commenced and all prior lien holders will be named in that title action. The erroneous satisfaction, even post-action, will remain on title, and that's okay. The certified order being recorded is key. Thanks for joining Senior Associate Anthony Ortiz and I on the Weekly Friedman, your source for the most essential information in the default industry. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave a comment below. We look forward to seeing all of you on part 2, where we'll cover 2 examples where Friedman Vartolo is litigating an erroneous satisfaction issue.